Number 8. Majka Kukakova. In April of 2014, roughly 6 months after a breakup from her boyfriend, millionaire British jeweler Andy Bush, Slovakian model Majka Kukakova snuck into his villa in Cancelada, Spain. The 26-year-old and Bush had dated for 2.5 years, splitting their time between the latter's luxury properties in the UK and Spain. The relationship eventually became turbulent, with frequent tantrums and jealous outbursts on Kukakova's part. Bush, who was known as Mr. Bling of Marbella through his jewelry businesses, broke up with her in November of 2013. He then started dating Russian model Maria Koroteva. When the couple flew out to the Spanish villa on April the 5th of 2014, Bush walked in to find his ex-girlfriend in his bed. The 48-year-old told Koroteva to wait in his gold-plated Hummer as he talked to Kukakova. The young woman, who'd been staying at the property without Bush's permission for 2 days, reportedly refused to leave. She then fatally shot her ex 3 times with a .38 revolver and placed the weapon in his hand to make it seem like he'd taken his own life. Kukakova went outside and ordered Koroteva out of the Hummer, claiming Bush had given her permission to drive it to the airport. Koroteva, to whom Bush had reportedly proposed at dinner just hours earlier, found him lying in a pool of blood and struggled with depression in the aftermath. Kukakova called an ex-boyfriend who helped her flee by driving her across Europe, back to her hometown of Nova Bosaka, where she eventually surrendered to the authorities. Kukakova was extradited to Spain and during her 2016 trial maintained that she'd acted in self-defense after Bush had attacked her inside the home. A jury rejected her claims and found her guilty of murder, for which she was jailed for 14 years, with a judge ruling it had been a crime of passion. She was also ordered to pay compensation to Bush's daughter and sister. Kukakova was let out early after convincing a parole board she no longer posed a danger, but the conditions of her release prevented her from leaving Spain. In the fall of 2022, she drew outrage from Bush's family by posting photos to her social media from luxury spots as she visited Barcelona and Costa del Sol. Earlier in 2017, she'd promised to pay the family roughly $20 a month from the salary she'd earned working in prison, an offer accepted by the court. A prosecution lawyer confirmed that the model hadn't made any payments, in spite of having the money for expensive trips. Bush's sister told a media outlet that seeing the photos in the press left her feeling sickened and contended they spoke to Kukakova's lack of remorse. Number 7. Selena Powell. I went to jail again, LMFAO, was how 26-year-old OnlyFans model Selena Powell announced on social media after her most recent run-in with the law. In December of 2020, she was arrested in Miami for driving with a suspended license, a crime for which she'd also been arrested in Colorado the previous year and had her bond set at $1,500. Powell, who called herself the Black Widow, had earned attention online by being romantically linked to several celebrities such as former child pop star Aaron Carter, but also through a series of dubious claims. Powell had at one point stated that she'd become pregnant with rapper Offset's child and that Snoop Dogg had cheated on his wife with her. She admitted to having been lying about the former claim, while Snoop stated that his interaction with the model had been part of a project of his to expose clout chasers. Powell's suspended license arrests were far from her only legal troubles. On December the 29th of 2018, bounty hunters apprehended her in Aurora, Colorado, after staking out a hookah lounge where she was expected to make an appearance. Powell had racked up $60,000 in outstanding warrants to her name for crimes that ranged from evading police to shoplifting and traffic violations. Number 6. Anai Dut. Anai Dut escaped war in his native South Sudan as a child and later on established himself as a successful fashion model in Australia. After being discovered in 2016, Dut worked with some of the world's most celebrated designers like Calibre, Jack London, and Tommy Hilfiger. In spite of his burgeoning career, Dut was arrested for several crimes. On November the 28th of 2020, he allegedly threw a beer bottle at his then-girlfriend, Janea Capablanca, with whom he shared an infant daughter. The woman, called 39-year-old Olivier Duverge, a close friend of her family, who made his way to her address accompanied by her mother. Doot and Capablanca were living together in an apartment at Randwick in Sydney's east, and the fight between him and Duverge occurred in the street outside. Doot took the latter to the ground and repeatedly punched him in the face, leaving him with permanent scarring on his forehead. The case had yet to reach a conclusion by 2021 when Doot was arrested again on a separate matter and charged with fraud. He'd stolen credit card information from illegal websites, then made expensive purchases at several Chemist Warehouse stores in Sydney. He manually entered the details of the stolen cards and later returned the goods, asking that a refund be sent to his personal Westpac account. The scheme unraveled when financial institutions and their customers alerted law enforcement, along with the pharmacy chain. Doot was quickly identified via CCTV footage and arrested, subsequently pleading guilty to 6 counts of fraud in Newtown local court. In June of 2022, he talked to a media outlet outside the courthouse and claimed to have reimbursed the chain for the stolen funds. In early October, he was handed a 14-month intensive corrections order, 7 months of which would be done under home arrest. Number 5. Ellie Ray. A cosplay model became the target of widespread online anger in the fall of 2022 after posting a series of photos that mocked Queen Elizabeth II after her passing in September, as well as a streamer who'd recently revealed she'd been a victim of domestic abuse. Model Ellie Ray uploaded a series of photos that showed her in lingerie, cosplaying as the recently deceased monarch. Ray captioned one of the posts, "I'm to die for," but a number of her followers and other internet users criticized the move as classless and a cheap attention grab. Ray generated further controversy through her cosplay of Twitch streamer and OnlyFans model Caitlin Siragusa, known online as Amaranth, after she'd recently revealed to have been in an abusive marriage. Among others, some of the incidents cited by Amaranth included her husband threatening to kill her dogs, taking her money and forcing her to stream. Ray subsequently donned a ginger wig, a low-cut white shirt and jeans, mimicking Amaranth's appearance in the October 16 stream. Ray then posted a series of photos on Twitter of the cosplay and captioned one, "If I stop streaming for the simps, he teaches me a lesson," crudely mocking the streamer's allegation that her husband was forcing her to be online. A second photo showed Ray hiding her face, while in another she had her legs bound with rope. The model quickly deleted the post, but a user was able to make screenshots and share them, describing the photos as cosplay of the streamer suffering public domestic abuse. Ray was heavily criticized in the aftermath, with one user summarizing her display as disgusting. Number 4. Natalia Sikorska. On July the 5th of 2017, a Polish model was caught shoplifting at Harrods in Knightsbridge, London. At the time, 28-year-old Natalia Sikorska was living in Chelsea while studying business management and economics at the University of Westminster. Security staff stopped her as she tried to leave the store with over $1,000 in designer goods that consisted of a Marcus Lupfer jacket, a pair of Cloudy Pirlo shoes, and a Pinko handbag. Sikorska admitted theft at her earliest opportunity, and Magistrate Grant McCrosty gave her a conditional discharge of 12 months. After arguing that she was a student and a newcomer to the country, McCrosty addressed her saying, "You are obviously a woman of considerable talents. You are obviously intelligent." Reactions from the public and even certain media outlets criticized the sentence as too lenient and also the reasoning behind it. Sikorska later apologized for her behavior, which she blamed on stress and cultural shock following her return from a holiday in the US 5 days earlier. Number 3. Abigail White. On October the 21st of 2022, British OnlyFans model Abigail White was found guilty of the March murder of her boyfriend at their South Gloucestershire home. White, who stylized herself as a fake Barbie and went by the pseudonym Mitzi Lewis on the platform, had earned close to $55,000 a year. Her personal life, however, was marked by a turbulent relationship with her 22-year-old boyfriend, Bradley Lewis. On March the 25th, they had an argument which turned physical just hours after they'd broken up. As the row unfolded, Lewis suffered a knife wound to the chest. White called an ambulance within minutes and he was rushed to a local hospital, where he passed away with an autopsy subsequently revealing that the blade had pierced his heart. White was arrested on suspicion of murder but initially told investigators that Lewis had stabbed himself. During her subsequent trial, the model admitted that she'd stabbed him but claimed to have only meant to shock and scare him after a night of heavy drinking at a local pub. The jury also heard that she was going through a rough period in her life, having recently lost a pregnancy and also finding out that Lewis had cheated on her. She denied murder and instead admitted manslaughter by reason of diminished responsibility. Her defense was rejected by the jury who, after 12 hours of deliberations, found her guilty of murder. Number 2. Nang Wei San. A model and former doctor from Myanmar was sentenced to 6 years in jail in late September of 2022 after reportedly posting nude photos on her OnlyFans. Protests had occurred throughout the country since the 2021 coup d'etat, when democratically elected members of the government were deposed by the military. 34-year-old model Nang Wei San was living in Yangon's North Dagon township, where martial law was in effect. She was reported as the first person in the country to be arrested for being an OnlyFans model after she was accused of harming culture and dignity. San faced a military court and was consequently denied certain rights, such as an attorney, before the lengthy sentence was handed down. Her social media activity had made her a target for the new regime's wrath, as she'd posted photos of herself attending an anti-military protest in 2021. However, her troubles with the country's authorities had actually preceded the regime shift. San, who'd become a doctor in her early 20s, stopped practicing in 2017 to pursue her aspiration of becoming a model. In 2019, the Myanmar Medical Council told San that her racy photos went against Burmese tradition and ordered her to remove the content. She ignored the demand, and on June the 3rd, her license was revoked. She later criticized the decision on Facebook, writing, "Society doesn't own women's body, my right," and thanked her followers, both domestic and international, for their support. Number 1. Bruno Krupp. Brazilian model Bruno Krupp was racing down the street on a Yamaha motorbike in the Rio de Janeiro beachfront neighborhood of Barra de Tijuca on the evening of July the 30th of 2022. Krupp was well above the speed limit, traveling at nearly 90 miles per hour in an area where the limit was 35. At the same time, teenager Jao Kardim was crossing the street with his mother. They were planning to take a walk on the beach before attending a birthday party. Surveillance footage from a nearby condominium captured the exact moment that Krupp slammed into Kardim. The impact was so powerful that it severed off a piece of the teen's leg, which was later found on a grass lawn about 165 feet from where he'd been struck. Kardim died in a local hospital shortly thereafter. Krupp, who was expected to undergo clavicle surgery, was charged with homicide. After the crash, he was filmed complaining of mistreatment from hospital workers, whom he claims were calling him a murderer as he was dying in the ward. The 25-year-old told the camera, "I didn't drink, I didn't do drugs. It was an accident, guys." 3 days before the deadly crash, however, he had been stopped by the police and refused to submit to a breathalyzer test. He was subsequently summoned for riding the bike without a license and for operating a vehicle without license plates. Thanks for watching. Would you rather spend a year working as an underwear model for minimum wage or as an exotic dancer making 10 times more? Let us know in the comments section below.